Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bull Take Podcast. I'm Austin Waiter. You know that man next to me, that is Austin Hill. And we are back talking NFL football. Of course, didn't have an episode out last week. Had a couple of things that just weren't in our favor setting up.
It was a bad time.
It was, but nonetheless, we got an NFL episode this week. We gave you picks for the NFL games last Sunday, so we counted those into the record as well. Go ahead if you haven't already. After this episode, tune into our college football episode. We talk about the 12-team playoff being set, conference championships, and maybe just a small little rant about the team up in Fayetteville. It wasn't anything big. It's not like it was like the first 10 minutes of the show or anything. But that's all in that college football episode. That's available for you to watch on YouTube or listen to on Spotify. You can watch that after this one. Nonetheless, another week in the NFL is in the books, Austin. We're getting closer and closer to postseason play. Week 14 was this past Sunday in the NFL, the last week of the season with bye weeks. Every team from here on out is playing every single week down the stretch in these final 4 weeks. Who is your biggest winner from this past Sunday of action?
Yeah, my biggest winner from does it have to be from Sunday?
Well, I meant like the last week. I don't know why I said Sunday. This past week in the NFL.
I figured that's what you meant, but I wanted to make sure. My biggest winner for this past week, I think, is honestly the Detroit Lions. I know it was a Thursday night football game, but obviously, like you said, we didn't have the episode last week, so we really didn't get to touch on it like we normally would have. So I really like the Detroit Lions. It was a big divisional game to keep a lead in the division, kind of control your dominance in the NFC. Absolutely huge game for the Lions to go out there and win. Really, almost an instant classic. This was a great ball game, but the Lions come out, they prevail, and they're one step closer to winning this NFC North and having the road go through Detroit, Michigan.
Just like everyone thought 5 years ago, For me, my biggest winner, and it's one I guess could go over to what happened last night. That's the Los Angeles Rams beating the Bills last week. That was an instant classic. Speaking of instant classics, that showdown with Buffalo this past Sunday. We'll
Yep.
talk more on that in a second. But winning that and then going on the road to San Francisco and taking down the Niners in a low scoring affair to say the least. After a 1-4 start, now you're sitting at 8-6. And the Seahawks having a tough matchup with the Packers on Sunday Night Football this upcoming week could be tied for first in that NFC West. And so, yeah, I got to give them credit. Me and you had been talking about this Rams team for the past couple of weeks, really kind of building on this. They're
Yeah.
getting better and better.
Yeah. This was the right time to get healthy. The teams in this division did not take advantage of their opportunity. Teams like the Cardinals and Seahawks who really didn't have a lot of excuses to not be winning games. Kind of how they started the season. Of course, the Niners have been up and down with injuries and other things going on with this team right now. But yeah, the Rams got hurt at the beginning of the year. Now they're healthy. Now they're winning games, and really, it seems like nobody's keeping the pace with them.
Yeah. And then for biggest loser, boy, oh boy, I think we got a couple of solid options for this one, Austin.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the New York Jets here. Look, this has just been not the envisioned start to this Aaron Rodgers era. Obviously, he plays one drive last year, tears his Achilles, and you don't see him all season. Now he plays this season, and he's just been downright. The team's just not been good. They're not winning games. They're losing games. That they maybe had a chance to win. This game went to overtime. They definitely had an opportunity to win it, but they can't get a stop at the end of the game. It's just really not the kind of output you expected from a team that invested so much into a quarterback who is an all-time great. Just really has been a bad couple of seasons for the Jets, really punctuated by this loss in overtime to the Dolphins.
You say past couple of seasons for the Jets. I think you mean past decade for the
Yeah,
Jets. What, 2010, last time they made the postseason? It's been a while. Been a long time coming for the Jets, so still a long way to go. It'll carry into 2025 as well. My biggest loser, I'll give it to a team that we highlighted several weeks ago saying they had an opportunity in front of them, and they straight up blew it. That's the Atlanta Falcons. Now sitting at 6-7, had firm control. Tampa had so many injuries to their star players. They were going to be able to make a big lead in this NFC South. Now they have lost so many games in a row. I believe was their fourth in a row that they have lost. Now you are 6-7. Tampa taking care of the Raiders, now 7-6. Tampa first place in that NFC South. Just a missed opportunity for the Atlanta Falcons, to say the least.
Yeah, this has been a blunder like no other. But unfortunately, the Falcons franchise is familiar with those.
Yeah, to say the least, they have been familiar with some. So that brings me to my first topic. Speaking of with the Atlanta Falcons, sitting at 6-7, you have lost four in a row. Kirk Cousins has not looked the same as he did at the start of the season, has struggled. You gotta wonder. There was reports of, people wondering, would we see Michael Penix Jr., the rookie that they drafted in the top 10? Would they see him? And Raheem Morris said that he does not plan on playing him right now, that Kirk will be the quarterback. So here's my question to you. If they lose this upcoming week, is it Michael Penix Jr. time?
I think it's got to be. I think you start realizing, especially if the Buccaneers win, what there'll be 4 games left and a 2-game disadvantage. That's a lot of ground to make up, especially with a team that's getting cold and a team that's getting hot. Um, I know you invested the money into Kirk. You let him play most of the year, but you also spent a first round pick on Michael Penix. I think it's time to start exploring your options at quarterback and start, using. Here's the thing: it's not like it's Michael Penix playing right now and he's playing poorly, and you signed some bum veteran to be his backup. You signed Kirk Cousins to be the starter. You drafted Michael Penix to be the backup. Now you're in the situation that you had to have possibly been thinking about when you drafted Michael Penix. If Kirk Cousins is playing bad and we have a chance to win the division and a chance to turn things around, do we give the rookie a shot? That's the only reason you would have spent a first round pick on Michael Penix is to think that he might have a chance to play this year, even given the situation. I think it's time sooner or later to go ahead and let him go. And even if you're not worried about saving your season, for experience sake, look, him and Bo Nix were not the youngest quarterbacks coming into this draft class. You can't spend the entire rookie contract developing this guy. They've got a
Yeah.
couple years to do it, and then he's going to be knocking on 30. And, by that point, you're expected to win, especially when that rookie contract comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, the schedule is really set up. That's why I say probably another week. This week, the Chargers taking on the Buccaneers. That'll be a tough matchup for Tampa Bay to go on the road and win. And the Falcons are heading to Las Vegas to take on the 2-11 Raiders. Like I said, if you don't win this week against the Raiders and Tampa goes out and wins, you got to look at Michael Penix. Even if you lose that game to the Raiders on Monday Night Football, I think you have to consider it.
I'm with you.
Yeah, absolutely for that. Now, our next topic coming up, of course, we're going to look at some of the games from this past week in the NFL. And we already talked enough about the Falcons. Let's talk about this instant classic that occurred in LA between the Rams and the Bills in the afternoon. This was the main afternoon game. Everyone was looking forward to it. And it was a dominant effort by both offenses. Neither offense was stopped the whole game. Matthew Stafford played incredible. Josh Allen was phenomenal as well. But in the end, it was the Rams with a 44-42 win. Austin, your thoughts on the shootout in LA?
Yeah, this was an incredible game to watch. It's been really awesome to watch how well this Bills offense has played this year. Um, we're seeing a new evolution in Josh Allen, and it was semi forced, but kind of something that I talked about at the beginning of the season, and I said it a lot, and I'm going to say it more here. They got rid of Stephon Diggs, but they replaced him in the aggregate with a much better full on receiving core. Instead of having Stephon Diggs and a bunch of guys, it's now a wide receiver room one led by Amari Cooper. And that still has guys like Khalil Shakur. Mac Hollins has played really well this year. Curtis Samuel's on this team. We haven't seen a lot of him since Amari Cooper, but even him, a lot of diversity, and even 2 tight ends who have been solid this season, and Kincaid and Knox getting the running backs involved as well. Ty Johnson has been really, really impressive. Um, but man, this has just been an upgrade for them. Even though Stephon Diggs is probably one-on-one better than all of those guys, this receiving core is much better than it's been in the past. And that allows Josh Allen to kind of have his pick of who he's going to throw the ball to. And that's what he's done this year. He's spaced out the targets. He's not locked in on one guy. And that's what's made this offense so hard to contain and why he's played so well because you truly don't know where he's going to throw the ball. He's going to throw the ball to who's open, not who's the best player.
Yeah, and then for the Rams, I mean, look, they like I said, and we talked about with my biggest winner, they have just been clicking offensively. Everyone's getting healthy now. They are looking like a dangerous team in the NFC playoff picture. Obviously, the Bills scoring 42 points, you lose. That's unfortunate there. They're gonna have a chance to rebound, still tied with the Steelers for that 2 seed. But we'll talk more about the playoff picture in a second. Let's now talk about Sunday and the other Sunday afternoon game. We're going to talk about the Seahawks sweeping the Arizona Cardinals, going in winning 30-18. Seattle sitting at 8-5, first in the division, but a tough matchup coming up on Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers, and then some other NFC North opponents before closing out the season in LA against the Rams. Austin, I'll just be honest with you. This NFC West battle, it feels like it will come down to that Week 18 showdown in LA.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And look, this is the Cardinals are playing kind of regressing back to the mean. This is where we expected this team to be. We didn't really it was a surprise and they've been a fun team to watch. Again, I think that this has been so awesome to watch for the Cardinals. Their belief in Kyler Murray, especially in today's NFL with the big high value contracts. If you don't live up to the hype or you get injured, look, there aren't a lot of opportunities for you. Teams start looking, especially the position, premium position like the quarterback. Teams start looking for the next guy. The Cardinals, bringing in a new head coach, bringing in a new GM, did not look to do that with Kyler Murray. They were sold and set that Kyler Murray was going to be their guy coming back from an ACL injury. And it has paid off. This team, once they can get some more, talent on this roster, they can be good under the leadership of Kyler Murray. But this is what we expected from this team. We expected this team to lose some of these divisional games. They played better than expected, but now, like I said, they're starting to kind of regress. But for the Seahawks, like you said, coming down to the end of the season for them, most likely in that matchup with the Rams in Week 18. But had they just played more consistent football this season, this division would be locked up for them. They started hot, and then we both kind of thought, they had an easy schedule, and once they got to the tough part, they were going to start dropping some games. We thought they were a pretender, and that's what's happened. Still in control right now, but you got to wonder, are they going to be able to hold on and pull it off, or is it going to come back to bite them, having that skid while the Rams were injured?
Nonetheless, 4 wins in a row for Seattle after a bit of a 4-5 point in the season. So yeah, they are sitting there, but the Rams hot on their tail, and they know a loss to the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football gives the Rams all the confidence in the world they can win this division. So a win kind of feels like a must for Seattle on Sunday night this week. And then the final game we're going to touch on from this past Sunday, the Chiefs continue to win one score football games, taking down the Chargers 19-17 to clinch the AFC West once again, and fitting that they clinch it on a Doinks field goal. If that's not fitting for how this Chiefs season was,
Yeah.
I don't know what is. But nonetheless, the Chiefs take down the Chargers in a defensive slugfest, getting the win. Now moving to 12-1, and with the Bills losing, in pretty solid control to take that 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah, look, the Chiefs have just figured out a way to get it done. What I hated about watching this game was the way Jim Harbaugh called timeouts at the end of this game. I was perplexed, confused. I don't know. I think he's a great coach. He's clearly proven that throughout his career at the NFL and at the college level. But the timeout process to me just wasn't there, and it set up an easy situation. Look, they were still in a decent spot. They definitely could have forced a field goal sooner. But the timeouts were just weird to me. I I'm not a football coach, I absolutely despise using more than one timeout before the 2 minute warning. I get maybe trying to use one, and if you get something going, you get something going because you still have that 2 minute warning to be your third timeout. But when you burn two or three before the 2 minute warning, I don't know. To me, just doesn't sit right with me because so much can happen before that 2 minute warning. Um, so I didn't like that. As soon as they got the first down, though, and there were no timeouts left, I turned the game off. I didn't even know until the next day that it was a doinked kick. Um, I was just like, yep, that's how the Chiefs have been this year. They got in. It's going to be an easy-ish field goal. Um, and they're gonna control it. They're gonna get the chance to win the game, or go to overtime. And I was like, I just cannot possibly stay up to watch overtime in this game. But most likely they're gonna win. I'm just gonna go to bed. I don't even want to watch. But props to the Chiefs. And look, the Chargers are right there. But they did make some mistakes that I wasn't in love with some of their, like I said, wasn't in love with some of the decision making from the Chargers at the end of this one.
Yeah, it was a big questionable there. Chargers losing that game helps certain teams in the AFC kind of move up in that playoff picture. Now let's talk about the playoff picture. We'll start in the AFC. Look, I talked about it. The Chiefs still the 1 seed, 12-1, in firm control in that division. Buffalo and Pittsburgh right now. Buffalo the 2 seed, Pittsburgh the 3 seed, but both of them sitting at 10-3 with some tough games coming up. So winning those tough games could really determine who gets that 2 seed in the AFC. The 4 seed, due to, look, Houston, let's just face it, if their division was terrible, they would barely be a playoff team right now. But their division has not competed with them. They pretty much have that wrapped up. The 5, 6, 7 seeds remain the same from the past weeks, also at 8-5. The Ravens, 8-5 Chargers, and now the 8-5 Broncos. All those teams right there through 5 through 7. So you wonder, depending on the schedules end of season, 5 through 7 could flip drastically in some of these, especially with the Ravens still having to play the Steelers another time. The Broncos and the Chargers still playing each other next week on Thursday Night Football. A lot could still turn in those wild card spots in the AFC.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to think about with this AFC playoff picture. Like it's been for the last couple of years, it's going to be a close, tight race in this AFC. A lot of competitive teams, and it's just going to come down to who wins the games here at the end of the season. Especially with, like you said, teams like the Broncos and the Chargers going to be matching up for divisional spots. That could be enough to get a team knocked out here.
Absolutely, it could be, especially with a special matchup for the Colt or for the Broncos this Sunday, which we'll talk more on in a second. But in the NFC, similar to the AFC, right at the top, clearly 12-1. You got the Detroit Lions, the Eagles again sitting at 11-2, clear cut number 2 seed. They are set in that 2 seed spot. They'll fight with Detroit for that 1 seed if the Lions do slip up in a game or two. Seattle currently still the 3 seed. We talked about it though. The Rams hot on their trail. Tampa taking the 4 seed now, taking control over the Falcons. 5, 6, and 7, similar to the others, staying right where we talked about the last couple weeks. Minnesota at the 5 seed, Green Bay at the 6 seed, and then Washington at that 7 seed. But the NFC playoff picture with the Rams win sitting at 8-6. If they were to lose a game or two, if Washington were to lose a game or two, Rams could be in position for a wild card spot. And Washington had slipped up the last couple of weeks, haven't looked as dominant as they did early in the season. Could very much see some shakeup in that bottom portion of the NFC wildcard picture as well.
Absolutely. I honestly, just a couple weeks ago, we were starting to think maybe this division race or the wild card race was kind of wrapped. It seemed like Washington, Minnesota, Green Bay just weren't going to lose enough games for some of these teams to catch up. But we talked about it. Commanders have slowed down. Those division games in the NFC North, again, division games are going to be huge for the NFC North. Lions, Vikings, and Packers, I think somewhere in there, I think they all still probably have to match up at least one more time coming out of the season. Maybe not the Packers and the Lions, but there'll still be some matchups in that NFC North that could bump one or maybe even both of those teams out. Probably not, but certainly one could be on thin ice if things don't go their right way. And like we said, Rams are hot on the tail. They're looking to get in to the playoffs by any means necessary. They're playing great football right now.
And Washington, I mean, their road gets interesting to end the year. Obviously, taking on a Saints team this week. Then their final three games: the Eagles, Falcons, and Cowboys. You lose one or two of those games, you're talking about falling out of the playoff picture completely. And after what was such a dominant start to the season, you wonder what it could mean for Washington. That is the playoff picture currently in the NFL. One final thing we're going to touch on before we go into game picks for a loaded Week 15 slate in the NFL. Let's talk NFL MVP, Austin. Let's talk it. There's been several players that have been considered for at this point. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Josh Allen, the main three that have come to mind to lead the MVP race right now. There are several others, of course, included. Maybe even Jared Goff in the conversation as well. But MVP race right now, what's your opinion on it right now in week 15?
Man, to me, it's a two dog race. I like Josh Allen the way he's played. Like I said, more of an all around threat throwing the ball now that there's more options and more people he utilizes, and his numbers are just better. I think that's there's nobody to really argue that. Um, but I think the other one's Saquon Barkley. Look, in the year of the running back in college football and the NFL, uh, it's hard not to think that maybe if there was a time in the modern NFL for a running back to win MVP, it would be this season from a guy who's had such a special season in Saquon Barkley. Look, we knew this guy was talented, but look, there were always excuses. Oh, it's the injuries are going to keep him from being good. Oh, it's playing for the Giants is going to keep him from being good. He's been healthy. He's playing on a very competitive, very talented Eagles team, and he is the guy that's leading the charge right now. Uh, I think if I had to pick right now, my vote would go to Saquon Barkley, even though I'd love for Josh Allen to win an MVP as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Derrick Henry at the start of the year was in contention for it. Slowed down the last couple of weeks, so I think that kind of cost him maybe. I'm with you. I mean, it's those two head to head. The good news for both of them, I would probably lean more towards Saquon Barkley as well. But look, we talk about it all the time. This is a QB driven award. So right now, Josh Allen would be the clear favorite. The only other time we've seen a non-quarterback up for the MVP, Justin Jefferson, I think 2 or 3 years ago. JJ Watt was up for it way long ago when he was a unanimous defensive player of the year. A lot could happen, but the good news for both of them, big matchups this weekend that could really help kind of separate the two for MVP. And let's dive into this loaded Week 15 slate, Austin. It is an absolutely loaded slate, especially in the 3 o'clock matchups. But let's start. We got one noon kickoff pick. Miami Dolphins heading to Houston to take on the Texans. Miami needs the win to keep their small playoff hopes alive. And then for Houston, a win and a Colts loss, and they will have clinched the AFC South. So big matchup in Houston. Who do you like in this one?
I want to pick the Texans here because I love the Texans, but I'm going to go with the Dolphins. They've been playing super well since Tua came back. The offense kind of feels like it's hitting the right points right now. I think this is an opportunity for them to come in and stun the Texans, and I think they're going to do it.
All right. This is a tough one for me. I really don't know what to expect for either side. I think the Houston defense has been solid this year. The offensive line for Houston, though, I still have several questions about. I don't think Miami's pass rush will be too big of an impact, though. I'm going to take Houston to win this game at home. I think it'll be close. I think it will go either way, but it will be a phenomenal matchup, to say the least, in that noon slate. Now let's get to the 3 o'clock slate, Austin. We are picking 4 games in this 3 o'clock slate. This is a
Wow.
loaded 3 o'clock slate we've ever seen. So let's start with one that will pretty much kind of determine a playoff picture for one team. 8-5 Broncos taking on the 6-7 Indianapolis Colts. Colts need this to keep their miracle hopes alive. Denver, being the 7 seed at 8-5, you win this game, it all but assures that the Colts are out, and you could basically lock yourself into a playoff spot, whether it be 5 through 7. The question, Austin, does Bo Nix and the Broncos get the win?
I think so. I like the way they play. They're playing great football. Nothing against the Colts, but this Broncos team, seeing the opportunity to take a playoff spot right now, I think they're going to do it.
You see, they're both really evenly matched, but again, it comes down to QB play. And even though it's technically Anthony Richardson being the veteran, he's still a rookie in my mind. He's not playing a lot of games. It'll come down to which quarterback doesn't make the more mistakes. I'll lean with Bo Nix. I'll take Denver to win as well. Get to 9-5 on the year. The next one, another unique one. Tampa Bay taking on the Chargers in Los Angeles. A big matchup for both teams, keeping their playoff hopes alive. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Tampa 7-6, take control of the NFC South. Chargers looking to keep up with the rest of the AFC in the playoff picture. Who wins this one at SoFi Stadium?
I like the Buccaneers in this one. I think they strengthen their challenge here in the NFC South, get themselves one step closer to clinching this division. I think they're finding the momentum at the right time. Baker Mayfield's playing out of his mind.
He truly is. But my questions, though, I still have worries about the offensive line for Tampa Bay. Some injuries there. This Chargers defense has been lights out this year. I think they get the win at home and they take down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like that Chargers defense to do it. And then the main two games in this 3 o'clock slate, Austin. Man, oh man, they're loaded. The first one, the Battle of Pennsylvania. The Steelers heading to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. Steelers looking to keep their 2-game lead in the AFC North. The Eagles really trying to keep up with Detroit to have a chance maybe at stealing that 1 seed if Detroit does slip up at any point in these last couple of weeks. A huge matchup of two great defenses going down in Lincoln Financial Field. Who do you like in this one?
I like the Eagles in this one. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Eagles' offense maybe just going to do a little bit more to get this one done.
Rude. Yeah. No, another way to put it. Look, I am completely biased, so I will pick the Pittsburgh
Yeah,
Steelers in this one. Listen, if there is, I will say this: the last couple of times Pittsburgh has been to Philly, it has been beat downs. Philadelphia has kicked their butt the last couple of times they have played them there, so that could very much happen. If it is a close game, though, I trust Mike Tomlin more than Nick Sirianni. I'll just leave it at that. That's my main takeaway. And Austin, the main game of the entire weekend in the NFL, CBS NFL Today is going to be at this game because it is going to be such an electric matchup. The 12-1 Detroit Lions hosting the 10-3 Buffalo Bills. Two elite teams that have yet to win a Super Bowl, but are looking like the top teams in their conferences. Some would say this could be a Super Bowl preview potentially, Austin. Who wins the biggest matchup of this Week 15 slate?
I'm going to be honest. I like Buffalo. I know that Detroit's going to be rocking and going to be crazy. Um, but just the way the Bills are playing right now has been unbelievable. Now, that being said, they've played really, really well and still lost games. They just lost that game to the Rams, playing phenomenally well. I like the Lions. They've been so fun to watch this year. But something's telling me Bills.
Hmm. Yeah. You already all know where I'm going. I don't bet against Dan Campbell. End of discussion. I love Dan Campbell. He is awesome, and he will win this game for the Detroit Lions, and they will get the win and get to 13-1. Uh Totally didn't pick the Bills to lose and the Steelers to win so that the Steelers could get the 2 seed. I totally didn't
Totally didn't
set
do
it
that.
up that way at all.
That's
No, no, absolutely not. But one final pick here Sunday Night Football, the Seahawks hosting the Packers. Huge one for playoff spots on the line. We talked about with Seattle how desperately they need this to stay atop the NFC West. Green Bay looking to keep up with Minnesota and Detroit in that NFC North. Who do you like in this one?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be honest. Just keep it short and sweet. I like Green Bay. They're the better team. I know that there's a little bit of added, fuel to the fire for the Seahawks because they really need to win this game. But I just think Green Bay is the better team. Green Bay, I think, has the same mentality. We need to win this game. They want to get as close to winning that NFC North as they can, if they can. So they need to keep winning games to stay in the playoffs, stay in the race for the NFC North. I think the desperation is there on both sides. I think the Packers are the better team, so I'm going to go with the Packers here.
I would normally say the Packers, but they have historically struggled in Seattle. They have struggled to win games against the Seattle Seahawks. there in Seattle. I'm going to take Seattle to pull out the win on Sunday Night Football. I think that they'll be able to. I think they can limit this Packers passing game as much as they can. And let's see if the offense can continue to click like it does. I think it especially helps if Kenneth Walker is playing this week. He's had a lot of injury issues the last couple of weeks, so we'll see how it goes. But that's it for our game picks from this loaded Week 15 slate. Now let's get to our last segment, the bet of the week. Austin, what do you got for us for this incredible Week 15 slate?
I had to go with a classic one that I saw that just eyes popped out of my head. NFL spreads are notoriously not very big, but there's one that is big this weekend. I like Giants plus 16 against the Ravens. I don't think they'll win, but I think they'll cover.
Yep, simple, straight to the point. I could see it. Mine is a simple one. Obviously, I could go Steelers money line, but I want to mix it up for you folks. Give me Cincinnati Bengals -5 against the Tennessee Titans. I think Cincinnati, after their win against the Cowboys, I don't know if they'll make a playoff run, but they're going to need to dominate the rest of the way to give anyone even a thought that they could somewhat be successful and have a chance in the postseason. I'll take Cincinnati -5 for my bet of the week here. But that is going to do it for this NFL episode. Again, if you haven't, go tune into our college football episode. We talked a lot in that one. So tune in to see what we had to say there about the college football playoff. Those bowl games and playoff games getting started. We'll have more on those next week. The NFL postseason just around the corner as well. Austin, it is going to be a great weekend for some NFL football. And I can't wait to see these last couple weeks of postseason for both sides.
Yeah, it is going to be absolutely exciting. Tight race coming down to the end. We're going to see who prevails and who doesn't.
Straight to the point. I couldn't think of a perfect way to end it. That's going to be it for this week of the Bull Take Podcast. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Wayner. We want to thank you all for listening.